Hello, hello! My name is Cierra Walling. I am the founder and operator for New Beginnings Behavior Services. If you missed the live for ABA for Everyone, don't worry, you're about to watch a recording here on YouTube. ABA for Everyone is a conversation between two BCBAs who have created their own private practice in using ABA for everyone and not just with individuals with autism. In the traditional insurance model. Here joining myself and Allie with Balanced Behavior Consulting. Enjoy.
Thank you everyone for joining ABA for Everyone. This is the first live that I'm doing. My name is Cierra and my co-host is Allie.
Good morning.
We're going to be talking about how ABA can be used for everyone and not just with individuals with autism, that it truly is the science of human behavior and that all humans can benefit from ABA. We're going to start out with sharing how we ourselves use ABA for everyone. So Allie, how do you use ABA for everyone?
So I started a private practice company. I have ADHD, so it was very important to me that I start a place and start a business that could address the need for supporting other diagnoses with the beautiful therapies that is ABA. I work primarily with ADHD, autism, well, some autism, anxiety, and I do a lot of work with parents that have no diagnoses and kids that have no diagnoses as well. So yeah, I work with kids across the lifespan, but yeah, it's kind of my way of using ABA, and there's a lot of people using ABA with ADHD, but I feel like it's lesser known because it's not insurance funded. What about you?
So how I use ABA for everyone, I originally started out in the behavioral health field. I started out volunteering with a nonprofit organization doing social and emotional wellness camps for adolescents and children. And I had always wanted to find a way to incorporate ABA with that. So I provide social skills tutoring that's has ABA informed care involved for children who may have autism, may have ADHD, may have a brain injury. Some of my clients have actually recently graduated out of ABA, but they still lack that social skills piece. They still need that extra help. And honestly, who doesn't need some extra help with social skills? Because being social is hard. And the public school system is crazy. It doesn't set up kids for success at all. It's so straight. When do we ever, as adults, sit in a room with 30 of our peers and expect to be best friends with all of them and get along with everybody all the time, all day? It's just silly. So I do social skills tutoring. I also do parent coaching, behavior consultation, school consultation. It's just what I've always wanted to do, and I'm really excited to have my own private practice now. And yeah, it's ABA for everyone.
And I don't know if it was you that we spoke about this with someone I was talking to on here. They mentioned how in private practice, like you're kind of a lone wolf. Obviously, we know this. It's your own business unless you have other people that you're working with. But I feel like this is like kind of our way of building like virtual coworkers, like a little virtual community online. Isn't that so cute?
Yes. No, it's like a virtual village. I originally heard the term from Lindsay Girk. I think that's how you say her last name. She's like an influencer. She's a mom. She does like the funny videos of her son doing things throughout the day, and she like reenacts them. She's funny. Very hilarious. She also like coined the Get Your Pink Back brand. Super cool, super fun. But she said something about how she has a virtual village with like other parents and other mothers. And I thought, oh my gosh, I love that. I love that term. It's so fun. And that's perfect for BCBAs who are starting their own private practice, because it really can feel like that. I think it can feel like that regardless if you decide to divert away from the autism insurance traditional world, because you know we always in the field we always say like you're on your own island. And when you start private practice, that island is now even farther away from everybody else. So it's nice to have a little virtual village.
For sure. And I think one thing that is particular to both of our ABA practices too, and a lot of the other people I know in my own virtual village, is the incorporation of acceptance and commitment training and all of that into our ABA practices and into the work that we're doing with our kids. And I know one thing that was really like isolating for me when I left like the classic ABA world was not having that community online and wondering like, am I the only one who has this idea? Like, am I crazy for doing this? And like coming on here and seeing how many other people are using it in their practice and having it be effective with their clients, and they're really big advocates for it, and they're getting the same like outcomes that I'm seeing also. That's been like really validating, especially when you're in kind of like your, like you said, your solo virtual island that feels like very far removed from everybody else.
Yeah, it definitely feels very, very much so like I'm not the only one.
Mm-hmm.
There are others like me.
Yeah,
Like
it's really
it
cool.
feels so good, and we feel that way in high school, like when we find like our people,
Mm-hmm.
like our friends in high school, we're like I'm actually not the only one. That doesn't go away. As adults, like you still feel that way. We're just all like
Yeah.
we just all want to feel a place of belonging and accepted and have our little village.
Mm-hmm. That's so true.
So speaking of acceptance and commitment therapy, why don't you share how you're using it for everyone?
Yeah. So when I was first introduced to acceptance and commitment therapy or training, and people call it both different things, it was actually when I was back with one of my first ABA agencies. It was during the pandemic. I had a client online, and one of my old coworkers at the time transitioned him over to me. She was moving, and he was kind of at this point where like none of like the classic ABA strategies were really working for him for like social skills, like emotional regulation. He was still having like higher rates of more challenging behaviors. And she was like, I'm kind of not sure what to do, so I'm going to give this a try. And when we started, it kind of showed me how important it is to bring in the child's like inner experience and analyze how that's having an effect on their outward behavior, and teach the child how to notice their inner experience, how to identify what's important to them. And that's like kind of all the components of ACT really is having a good understanding of your values, accepting that life is going to have some discomfort, noticing what your inner process is like, and being really critical and mindful about the decisions that you're making, and then moving forward. But those are all skills that have to be taught.
Yes.
And it's a really hard skill to teach. But like the whole idea of consciousness is like a really scary like thing for kids if they like don't know what's going on, if nobody explains it to them and nobody guides them to discern and to understand that like every thought that you have isn't necessarily one that you have to act on. And it might, you can think new thoughts. Like if you want to make a different decision, you can do that. You are kind of in the driver's seat. And so my whole kind of mission starting my business was to bring the tools and the like behavioral strategies and all of my knowledge of behavior and all of like the support that it's given my practice and my clients, but also bring in this kind of missing piece, which is their inner experience and how it plays a role in changing their behavior and in achieving the goals that they want and in living a life that aligns with the things that they want most, right? Like the classic reinforcement of like, do this so you get this, like, yeah, that it's good too, but we want to like intrinsically motivate also based off of values and based off of like your long-term goals, and teach kids how to tolerate discomfort, whether that is that you have to work really hard at something or that
Practicing vulnerability because it's a
practicing
skill.
vulnerability because it's a skill, exactly, or accepting that something might not go the way that you want it to, but it's still viable, and that's still like a great way to live your life, and it can lead to more in the future. Like the shift that I saw in my clients once we started doing that was bigger than like any other like behavioral intervention I had ever done. And of course, you're combining the two at the same time. You're shaping up this skill. you're differentially reinforcing like thoughts aligned and behaviors aligned with your values. And there's all of the behavioral principles still within the process. It's still ABA. Yeah.
I think it helps fill in that criticism of ABA that, well, ABA is only for outwardly behaviors that are observable and measurable and blah, blah, blah. That's all true and helpful. But ACT goes into what I like what you said, like your inner voice, like it goes inwardly. And honestly, it's super helpful. And I think it's great that you're using it in your practice and that you're so like diving into it. And I know you emphasize this in your practice. You cannot provide ACT unless you're doing it yourself. And I see you doing it all the time. I see you engaging in your values. I see it.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And I appreciate that recognition because it is like, it is so important to do the work if you want to do the work.
Yes.
Because ACT is a much more talk-based therapy. Like, we're not doing psychotherapy in that we're only talking and we're not finding solutions. Like, you have to talk to kind of get to the root, and you have to talk so that you can explain, but we are still shaping up the process. It is still a behavioral principle, like, and there is a process base for it. But like, if you are not living an ACT life, and if you are not really like melding yourself to those principles and doing the internal work, then how can you expect yourself to be able to explain that to somebody else? Because it's a really huge and like challenging concept to understand, especially for a young mind,
because it's
you know?
Skill.
Yeah.
I'm all
it's not something that's
skill building here, folks,
intuitive.
in case you didn't know.
Yeah. I know it really is, and that's the thing I come back to. It's observable, it's measurable, and it's definable. Each one of these things, like all of those tenets of ABA that we're talking about all the time, we can do all of those things. It might not be like the most obvious thing to somebody who's not looking for it, but to like me, and when you're listening and when you're being intentional and when you learn what to look for and when you learn to keep your eye out for, then it's very obvious what's happening. For the, like, you can see the connection between the private event and the physical behavior that's happening.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I love.
I remember I had a kiddo once, specifically what you're talking about. Like, you see the private event and then you see the behavior. For her, there was a delay. Like, there was a private event. I could see outwardly, outside of her, how that could have triggered the private event. And then later on, throughout the day, she's probably, just like ruminating it in her brain. And then all of a sudden the behavior happened over something, like over an unknown trigger. It was like one of those moments where parents always say, like, it happens out of nowhere. It happens out of nowhere. It's unexplainable. It's so random. And I'm like, it's not, but you know what? It's sometimes really not. It really is not. You have to look at those private events. They're valuable. It's valuable information.
100%. Yeah, it's like, again, when you teach a kid also to be able to label that thing inside their mind that sometimes they're not even fully conscious of, but when you start to open their eyes to it and start to practice that noticing of your like consciousness or noticing of that inner voice, then they start to be able to tell you what was going on. Like, hey, what were you thinking about before you did X, Y, and Z? Oh, I was thinking about this thing that happened earlier in the day that really made me mad, and then it happened again, and then I couldn't handle it anymore. And you're like, oh, okay. Like, that's exactly, like, that is an antecedent. That's an antecedent to the event. It might not have been in that moment, but something popped up that you could see, but it was in that moment happening.
In their world, it changed in their environment, in their psyche. Yeah.
Someone said determinism. Yeah.
We love the ABA lingo.
House of Lily Lane.
If you are just now joining us, this is ABA for Everyone. It is a live conversation between two BCBAs that have their own private practice using ABA for everyone and not just for individuals with autism in the classical insurance-based world. We're going to shift gears now and start sharing what other ABA practitioners are doing in the field. If you missed out, we just shared what we are doing. Now we're shifting gears onto what other BCBAs that we are familiar with. I'm sure there's a bunch. And I know there's a bunch, but we're going to talk about some that we particularly chose for this
And if you
live day.
are a BCBA on here watching and doing something different, comment what you do or comment someone that you love and we'll give them a shout out and look into them. Maybe we'll highlight them next time.
Yes, we love to build our virtual village.
Yes. Okay, well,
Allie's going to start out.
Okay, so I have to give a shout out. I don't know if she will come on, but I'm going to mention her here anyway. So my friend Becky was the first person to ever introduce me to Mallory. She's Act Mindfully Mallory, and she's also a BCBA. She uses Act to support burnout and coaching for other BCBAs. She was the first person to ever introduce me and to show me somebody else that was using ACT and was a BCBA. And Mallory was one of the people who actually pushed me to get balanced behavior online and to put it out there in like a big way and just kind of take the leap of faith. She is incredible. She has a bunch of courses online. She has a bunch of coaching groups that you can join. But her work is super awesome. Like she helps BCBAs build their own private practices. She helps them find kind of their niche in the field through the framework of ACT, through identifying their values, through identifying their like limiting thoughts and the things that are kind of holding them back, and also incorporating our love of mindfulness and having a slower, more intentional approach to life. Mallory is amazing. She is so helpful. She's such a great coach. So yeah, she was one of my favorite people. She does, like I said, just a lot with burnout, a lot of BCBA coaching, business coaching, helping people to build their practices or support their like overall well-being while in their current positions, which is awesome. Yeah. She's a rock star.
Mallory is amazing. There's this quote she says, and I've quoted her before, and I'm going to do it again. She always says that ACT is not about changing it's not about ignoring the feelings and pretending that they're not there and pretending that the thoughts are not there. It's about changing your relationship with them.
Yeah. Her name is, Lillian asked, her name is Mindfully Mallory. She's wonderful. And yeah, everything in ACT is really about responding to the emotions and the thoughts that you have rather than that initial reaction. And that's why learning mindfulness and learning how to slow down and look at yourself really from like a deep level changes everything, because so often people are going through life like kind of in like your robotic state or based off of what you've learned your whole life and not really like living to what's truly
history
you.
Reinforcement.
Yeah, and like again, when we live in a world that is very much systematic. You go to school, you get a job, there's ideas about what jobs are better than others and which ones are going to lead to a more fulfilling life. But if you enter one of those and you do all the things and you're still struggling, you're still not happy, then like something has to give, right? And I think that's kind of the coolest part of ACT. And that's what Mallory does for people, especially for BCBAs that are kind of at their like the end of their rope. Like I know for me, when I started looking at her profile, I was like, how do I get out of ABA? Like I thought I didn't want to be a BCBA anymore. And I think she's doing really wonderful stuff for people who are in that same boat and helping them either stay or supporting them in finding a different path for themselves, which that's awesome.
Yes. So it's Mallory. If you want to find her socials, look up at Mindfully Mallory. Yeah. Moving on, Allie's going to talk about our next BCBA practitioner on our list.
When you tag somebody, will they join I do offer ACT for professionals. Yes, I do. I do one-to-one mentoring, and I'm also actually starting a group that will
Yes,
start on
act
October
you.
3rd. October 3rd. It's going to be at 8:30 p.m. I'm offering two groups, one on the East Coast and one on the West Coast. They're both at 8:30 p.m. I know I have a lot of moms and parents that are BCBAs, so we're trying to do a later time to hopefully address that. I'm going to tag the next person, which is Ascend Behavioral. So actually, both these people were super impactful in me starting my journey. So Ascend Behavioral, her name is Kelsey LeBlanc. She was actually one of my very first BCBA supervisors when I was working at my first job in Boston. Kelsey was, again, like I said, she was a BCBA at my company. She transitioned to a training role, and then when the pandemic happened, she left and she started kind of just spending more time at home, and she opened her own private practice. Initially, she was kind of doing like, in-home assessments, stuff like that, school contracts, and then she realized how much she loved behavioral sleep. She
I
started
love
doing more
hearing about
intentional
this. This is
work.
so
It's
exciting.
so cool. She started doing a lot more intentional work. She's spending the last few years really studying, digging into the research, spending a lot of time like honing her practice. But now she offers assessment and training packages for families who have like kids in the pediatric area. She does more like toddler and up ages, but supporting kind of the whole family in sleep. There are so many people that come to her that have kids that are 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and up, still not sleeping through the night, still having issues putting themselves to sleep, staying asleep, not getting up all night. And as we know, your sleep health and your sleep hygiene is like one of the most important things that you can have to have like a successful day, to have a successful life, to maintain your health and wellness. So Kelsey's doing amazing stuff. She's been such a mentor to me, and supporting my journey in starting my own private practice. We talk almost every day. We were texting this morning, have phone calls multiple times a week. She's incredible. She's actually located in Massachusetts, but she does all virtual work. So yeah, she serves as many people as she can, and
Tell
I
your
hope this
parents
is
to talk to
Kelsey.
Kelsey.
You need Kelsey in your life. If you have the thing about sleep, which I don't think a lot of people realize, is it is a skill to be able to fall asleep by yourself. For a child, if their parent rubs their back to fall asleep and then they wake up in the middle of the night, again, in ABA, I used to get this all the time, like when I was in people's houses, and I would do sleep support and stuff like that because it is behavioral, right? And so you kind of have to create the same condition for a child to be able to fall asleep in every night. We all have sleep dependencies. I know I have some weird ones. Like I need a fan, I need my earplugs, I need a mask, and if I don't have those things, I'm not falling asleep. Like, everybody has something like that. And yeah, it's a skill. It's a skill to be able to do it. It's a skill to implement that behavior change. It's challenging. So yeah, Kelsey's doing some really awesome stuff with pediatric sleep support. And if you need help, you guys should definitely look at her website.
Kelsey and Mallory, they're
Kelsey and
wonderful.
Mallory, yep, my two favorite, well, not favorite, but
The one
two
I'm
very
talking about
big
today.
inspirations for me. Yeah.
Okay, if you are just now joining us, this is ABA for Everyone, a conversation between two BCBAs that are using ABA for everyone and not just with individuals with autism in the traditional insurance world. We are talking about how other practitioners are using ABA for everyone right now. Allie just shared her list of wonderful people, Mallory and Kelsey. Their socials are tagged in the comments, so scroll through and find them so you can reach out to them and get some good quality things that they provide. I'm going to share the next few BCBA practitioners. The first one I'm going to share as a story. So it's Conor McGregor's one of his like last fights, in MMA. It's a big fight night, got UFC on the TV, having a fight party. And it's the main fight card. It's not Conor McGregor's fight yet, but it's the main fight card. I don't know if you guys know how UFC works, but you have like the main fight card, and then you have, I think, 4 fighters on the main fight card. And one of the fighters, it's a heavyweight fight, and they're introducing the coach of one of the fighters, and they say, oh, this is Dr. Paulie Gavoni. He's a BCBA, and he owns MMA and Science, and this is his fighter. And I was like, what? What? Hold on. There's an MMA coach that's a BCBA? I'm a BCBA. Hold on. And so I Google, and yeah, he is affectionately known as Paulie Gloves.
We love that name.
Little wordplay there. And he is the founder and operator of MMA Science. He also is a published author. He's done loads. He has a podcast channel, been interviewed by other podcasters and other YouTubers in the field of ABA. He's done some conference presentations and panels and things like that. His handle is Dr. Paulie Gloves.
I love the wide variety of applications of it, and it's so cool, especially like to have that aha moment. You're like, a BCBA? We never hear a BCBA.
Right?
People are usually like, what's a BCBA?
What's that? What's ABA?
Yeah, what's ABA?
Realize my behavior right now?
Yeah.
That's
Exactly.
just usually how the conversation goes. So yeah, it was like a really fun moment for me. At the time I was training in jiu-jitsu, so it was like super exciting. So yeah, he trains his fighters at his gym, and he uses a belt promotion system using ABA inspired techniques and
Nice.
Behavior and scoring and things like that. Because for any of you who've ever done any sort of martial arts or Brazilian jiu-jitsu, there's a belt promotion system, but it's really subjective. And so he's found a way to make it more objective and more ABA based. Super cool stuff. I personally reached out to him on Facebook and just was like, oh my gosh, I think what you're doing is so cool. Da, 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 da. And he responded. So if you want to reach out to him and talk to him, he's super kind and he's willing to chat. If you're into that
Gloves
things.
on the live one day.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be so fun. Yeah, if you're into that, if you're into, like fitness and sports and things in ABA, definitely check him out. That leads into my next person. His name is Jonathan, and his handle is My ABA Coach. And he there's a lot of BCBA practitioners out there in the field that are using ABA to build healthy eating habits, healthy fitness habits, weight loss, training programs and things. He takes it a step further. So he uses ABA for not only physical fitness, but also mental fitness.
Ooh.
So he's really it's very similar to ACT, where you're in the mindset, you're focusing on private events. If you check out his page, my ABA Coach, I just realized I typed in the handle wrong on the comments. I will fix that later on. Sorry, guys.
I gotcha.
It's My ABA Coach. So if you go to his socials, you'll find really cool videos, really great inspiration, tips and tricks and things like that. Just, trying to do some thought challenges on how to incorporate ABA and your mental health and your physical health as well.
I love that. He sounds really cool. I need to take a better look at his profile because I'm sure that he's going to have a bunch of cool activities and supports I can even use with my clients too.
Yeah, that would be good. I think, and he does work with adults and kids.
Oh, cool. That's even better.
He'll have stuff on there for you for sure.
Nice.
Yay!
Yes.
Virtual
It is so cool just to see again. I remember one of my professors in grad school. She her main thing. She was the head of the department. I would say her name, but I can't remember her last name, so I'm not going to. Her first name was Gretchen. I can't remember, but I thought it was so cool at the time. She had her own private business as well, doing weight loss coaching. with
Yeah.
people. And I think her husband or her partner at the time did kind of like the actual fitness part of it, and she did like more of like the behavioral change and like supporting like creating programs for people and all that stuff. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. Like maybe one day I'll have my own business. But like, yeah.
And now you do, and now you're doing it for everyone.
It's so cool. Yeah, it's interesting. Like I know actually you have one more person to talk about, but keep going.
Yes, we had a chat last week, guys, like brainstorming on what we wanted to talk about, and it like could have gone on for so much longer than it did because we're just chatterboxes. We have the gift of gab.
We do.
And
we're just so excited about all this stuff.
Ireland.
Yeah.
We have the gift of gab. Okay, so the next person, I actually had to, play a little FBI skills on my part, play some investigation skills on my part because I didn't know her name. So I had a conversation with a professor at Utah State University. They have, if you're looking for PhD programs in behavior analysis, they have 3. So they have one for special education, one for psychology, and then one for just regular ABA. This is not sponsored by them, by the way. I just told that they have PhD programs because I don't know any other universities that have multiple ones. And they are verified. They are verified courses for your BCBAD. Fun fact.
Oh, nice.
Through the ABAI. Moving on. I had a conversation with one of the professors. He's actually about to retire in like the next couple of years. And he was sharing with me about some experimental behavior analysis with using. Oh, look at that! Kelsey joined. Sorry,
I got talking about you.
We were just talking about you, Kelsey. You're amazing. Everyone, find her, follow her, tell your parents to get in contact with her. Okay, yeah, going back to my story. The professor was sharing experimental behavior analysis in schools and increasing healthy lunch choices with their student body across an entire school district in northern Utah. And their reinforcement system that they used was a video game that they created. They created a video game that was part of their reinforcement procedure and system. And it ended up being so successful that one of the research assistants on the team for this was contacted by a video game design company in Philadelphia.
Whoa.
And so now she works for them. Her name is Brooke Morrill.
That's awesome.
She uses ABA and virtual reality game design. It's so cool. It's so cool. I don't know anyone else that's doing it that way. Her handle is Bam Brooke. Whoops, I'm typing things wrong. Ash. She doesn't have her own private practice. She doesn't have her own business. If you reach out to her, I'm sure she'd be willing to respond. But she might want to keep her private life private. So just a heads up for everybody on that end. But yeah, her name's Brooke Morrill. She's a BCBAD, went to Utah State University, is now in Philadelphia, and she's using the science of human behavior, of human learning, of ABA, and virtual reality game design, which I think is so cool and so unique.
So cool. Honestly, it's just like, I think one of the things that I know I see a lot when we're in like just the Instagram world of ABA is so many people being like, I love this, but I don't want to do like the insurance-based ABA anymore. And that is kind of like, I guess, like the next thing that we're like leading into a little bit. But there's not a lot of discussion around what other avenues you can take. Like a lot of us are just kind of having to pave our own way and pave our own path. But like at the end of the day, you and I know this, but I don't think it's like, it doesn't seem to be common knowledge, but we are not autism experts. We are not solely autism experts. I've said to people, I've never even taken an autism class in my university, which is like in my master's program, never even taken one. And like, we are behavior analysts, we are behavior experts, and there's so many different applications of this we just have to start creating it on our own. And I would love for there one day to be like more conversations like this, kind of inspiring other people to take ABA in the direction that they want to, and not just kind of have it be limited to one population, especially because unfortunately the way that it's been used in some of those populations haven't been the best. And that's like not, it's a bummer that it has the reputation that it does sometimes, because it can do so much across so many different avenues of life and fields by just applying the science. So yeah, I guess that's one of my hopes, is that there's more avenues and further application of ABA for everyone, as time goes on.
Yeah, I think when I was doing my schooling and my supervised fieldwork experience, you know, that was the narrative I was pushed. ABA is everywhere and it's for everyone. And so when I formally entered the field clinically, I assumed that I would in fact be using ABA for everyone. And it was a harsh realization that it currently is primarily only used for an insurance medical service to treat individuals with autism, even though the research supports it being used for anxiety, depression, postpartum mothers, physical fitness, ADHD, brain injury rehabilitation. There are just so many really great research out there. Sleep, yes.
We see you, Kelsey.
We see you, Kelsey. Yeah, there's just so many other things that you can use it for. So that's one of the reasons, that's what inspired this conversation to go live, was that ABA can in fact be for everyone. No, you weren't catfished into entering the field with your schooling and your training, and that you can actually use ABA for everyone, because you can. You can. And now we're going to share about essentially how we did it, how we left the ABA field, left the insurance ABA world, and how we started our private practices. So Allie's going to go first.
So honestly, Miss Kelsey at Ascend Behavioral is a big reason why I took the leap. Kelsey is growing her practice also, and eventually I'm gonna help her out too and do some work with sleep once we get rolling on that. But I've always wanted to work with kids. I've been working with kids since my first ever job, and my continuing jobs up until today have only ever been with kids. I think I've only ever had 2 other jobs, and they have been in food service. And a lot of that's customer service. It's working with people, like all that stuff, right? But when I became a BCBA, like, I was excited to do the work. And as much as I understand the current like insurance model, I think that I was really at a space where I was missing doing the direct work. I loved supervising people. I loved getting to work with my RBTs and work as a team. But I felt that the world that I was in was so focused on billable and making a profit, as any company needs to. You have to make a profit to stay afloat. But it felt like it was at the cost of my sanity, my ability to work with my clients in a way that was effective, where I wasn't feeling like I was being pulled in a bunch of different directions. And that just kind of seemed to be the theme at every place that I went to, despite their best efforts. And I know that everybody's intentions are to serve children and to be a good support in the community. But I think, unfortunately, where the insurance model is at right now, that's just like a really hard thing to do. So when I saw the opportunity to kind of go do something else and potentially work with Kelsey, it kind of sparked the idea that I'm already doing the direct work on my own. I had private clients I had been working with on the weekends and in my free time doing ACT and ABA. And so I was like, well, if these people want it and these people are happy with it and I really love it, like, there must be more to do.
There's a need, I will fill it.
Yeah, there's a need. I will fill it, and I'll be passionate about it. I've always talked to my parents about wanting to be my own boss, to open a business that was just mine. I really thrive off of like getting to do a bunch of different things at once. Like I love being on social media. I love the entrepreneurial like nature of things. And I also love getting to be the person doing all of the direct work now with not only my clients, but also with the parents. And yeah, it's really cool to just be like also an advocate now. Like I feel like I have so much more space and free time to advocate for ACT and ABA and to advocate for different ways of being a BCBA within the world of ABA. And yeah, it's just, it's so much better. So yeah,
you're truly leaning into your values.
Yeah, for real. I definitely am leaning into the values, and I think that the more that people kind of can open their eyes a little bit to what is like deep inside of them and the things that they maybe are labeling as secondary or saying like, oh, that's kind of like a pipe dream, that's never going to happen. Like it can happen. Your dreams can happen. Your dreams can come true. The things that you want, they can also shift and evolve. Like there's a point where I was like, oh, I don't want to own a company. And now I'm like, yeah, I do. Like this is awesome. This is really cool. I get to be my own boss. Yeah. I get to create my virtual village. And I think when I think about what I value most, I value my freedom. I value my like independence in thinking. I value supporting people and getting to be connected in that way. And I think that with this framework, I'm able to do that every day, and I'm able to connect with people who really want the service and value the service and are invested in it. And I want to work with people who have that same energy. So yeah, that's how I got here.
We stand Allie, stand her.
Thanks. I want to hear yours now.
Okay, so I originally entered the field completely by accident, like most of us do. I was going to, school for marriage and family therapy. I had been working alongside a private practice owner who was a forensic interviewer, a play therapist, therapeutic interventionist in Arizona. I'm from Arizona, guys. I had moved, and I, thought, what can I do to continue onto this path of becoming a marriage and family therapist? And my mentor at the time recommended that I apply for behavioral health technician jobs. Google search, behavior technician comes up. I read the job description, follow treatment plan, collect data, client dignity, take care of clients. It sounded really similar. I applied, I got an interview, and the interviewer starts asking me questions about ABA and my experience with autism and all of these things I know nothing about. I was young, I needed a job, and so I lied. I did not get that job, and rightfully so. I did not get that job, but it made me really curious. What's an RBT? What's ABA? So I start Googling, I start watching videos on YouTube. I start really understanding what it is. They take data, they have graphs, they have systematic processes and procedures. We don't do that in psychology. We don't do that in behavioral health. I really like this. And so became an RBT, fell in love with the science even more. I started my master's coursework and my ABA coursework while I was finishing my bachelor's, guys. That's how much I loved it so much. I was doing 2 programs at the same time. And yeah, I became a BCBA, loved it. I still love it. I still love ABA therapy. This isn't a hate story or a hate conversation on ABA therapy. We still love ABA therapy. But I always knew I wanted to use it in other ways. And so it's really, really vulnerable moment, really fun, vulnerable story. When I was in high school, I had an English teacher that had us write letters to ourselves about essentially kind of goals that we wanted to have achieved by 10 years. And we had like little categories for each thing. And I got my letter last year,
Oh my God.
and it said, and I made sure to write the letter as if I was talking to myself, as if those things were had happened. And so I put it, I'm so proud of you for starting your private practice. And and like, it was just like this wonderful, beautiful story about my private practice and how I was proud of myself and that I did it and la da 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 da. And I remember reading the letter and just crying because I hadn't actually started it yet. I hadn't started it yet. And I thought, oh my gosh, like, I need to do this. And so, you know, other things happened, and it led me to make the decision and commit to it. I listened to Brene Brown's FFT podcast.
Yes.
Listen to it. I will not stop talking about it. And if you follow my page, you've heard me talk about it before. I will not stop talking about it. I listened to her podcast, and I just took the plunge, and I really mapped out what I wanted to do. And I really wanted to do I really wanted to focus on social skills for kids, because I feel like that's just such a need, even in the ABA world. I really wanted to provide parent coaching for parents who don't have a kid with autism, but they still need help. Parenting is hard, guys. Parenting is hard. Parents still need help. You guys still need help. Whether it's because you're single parenting, co-parenting, you have a child with ADHD, you have a child with a brain injury, or your child
know how to like work with, like, it's not always intuitive. Like there's a process.
And things change, and they change, and you change, and changes happen, and you gotta have skills to handle the change. And so, yeah, I that's how I got into it. That's how I left the ABA, the insurance world, and that's how I'm doing ABA for everyone.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I think when we talk about ABA for everyone, like, I really do, it's not even just ABA for everyone with a diagnosis, right? Like, it's for everyone. You know, I have friends of mine who are becoming parents for the first time, and we're having conversations around, like, I want to make sure that I don't do this the way my parents did it with me. How do I do this differently?
Breaking the cycle.
Yeah, like when you've only seen one thing, and you've only experienced one thing in school, or when you've only seen it with your family or with your friends or whatever, you don't know another way of doing things. And that's kind of what I think for me ABA brought that to life, understanding that, like, behavior is just behavior. And when you break it down to reinforcement, and you break it down to, like, the ABCs of how things work, like, you can step back from how you feel about it, address that through ACT, address that through your values and all that stuff, and then respond accordingly. Like, then you're not, like, questioning, did I just screw my kid up? Or I don't want to be yelling at them when they do this behavior, but I don't know any other way to get them to stop. I need some more support in this way. Or, like, I have this thing I want to change in my life, and I can't figure out why I can't get past this certain point, right? And it does take another person to come in sometimes and just kind of point things out to you that you might not be seeing, or explain things to you in a new way, explain things from an objective standpoint. And that can just be, like, the kind of key that changes everything. And yeah, you don't need to have a formal diagnosis to benefit from this type of support.
You don't. And yeah, it's this whole conversation is just really exciting, and I'm having a really nice dose of serotonin right now, just, like, flowing through my system, because this just, like, it warms my heart. And these kind of conversations is one of the reasons why I entered the field and why I love it so much still. You know, there is beauty in knowledge. There's people always say, you know, ignorance is bliss, because that's true, but there is still beauty in knowledge.
Yeah.
And so being able to know more about how to use ABA for everyone, and being able to know that you can, in fact, use it without a diagnosis. You can use it for sleep. You can use it for being a burnt out BCBA. You can use it for mindfulness and anxiety and having ADHD. And you can use it for fitness. You can use it for all of these things. I'm sorry, my hair sheds all the time, and I just my shirt, and so I just had to get rid of that.
Okay, we're real here.
Interrupting thought. But yeah, you can use it, like knowledge is beauty, like having more knowledge is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, Google, that's what I did. Just start Googling BCBA, insert whatever niche topic
Mm-hmm.
you're trying to find out, and you will find people.
Yeah.
There are so many other individuals out there that are doing things. And again, if you are a BCBA, or if you know someone that's a BCBA that's using ABA in other ways and for everyone, leave us a comment, send us a DM. We want to discover other BCBA practitioners. We want to build our virtual village. You know, we don't want to feel like we're on an island. You're not the only one that are thinking these things. We all think these things. We all want to use ABA for everyone. So let's all connect.
Yay. This was so fun. I'm very happy to have found you on here, to find another person
I
who
loved
has
your
the same
first message.
passion.
I'm so excited. I was like, ah!
I know, it's cool. Like, I mean, again, that's kind of the thing about Instagram too, is just that, like, I think it's more about finding people and finding like a community that wants the same thing, you know? Like, I think there's a lot of people that are against ABA, and a lot of people, and again, rightfully so, like there's been a lot of really bad practice ABA. And I know we still have like so far to come as a field, and so many like people to continue to support, and also like people to apologize to that things didn't go how they should have, and that they didn't get like the respect and the autonomy and the consent that they deserved. But like, I think the feeling and the urge of the field is to like move forward in a compassionate and like assent-based, like trauma-informed, compassionate way.
You're evolving like
Yeah.
Pokemon, guys.
Yeah, exactly. And like, and it's cool to see that energy is out there, and that energy is here in the world of ABA online, and seeing the community on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn and all that stuff like that. There's this call to action. And as important as, and this is the thing, like, I know that there's a lot of issues with the insurance-based model in the past, and how ABA has been practiced in the recent years and stuff like that. So that's kind of why I want to promote that, like, ABA is more than just that, and ABA is evolving, ABA is changing, and we're bringing in things like ACT, which kind of bring in the whole human and not just, you know, focus on the observable behavior. And that's kind of like the only thing, the observable behavior. And yeah, there's just there's so many things that we can do. Yeah, and I'm excited. I'm excited to keep having more talks like this.
So if you were able to watch us all the way through, thank you for sticking with us. If you're only able to come in for a portion of the live, that's okay. It will be posted on our accounts for you to rewatch. It'll also be shared on our YouTube channels as well, to recap and watch, share, like, subscribe, all of the little comments and things. I don't know how to do this, you guys. That's not what I do.
I don't know how to do that either. I don't have a YouTube,
send
but
it. I don't know. Send, you know, whatever you want to do, or don't send
come
it.
back to it.
Like, this is up to you guys. If you agree with what we're saying, great. If you don't, that's fine too. Bless and relief.
If you have any questions for us, or you want to reach out to us, both our DMs are open if you're curious about services that we provide, and if you know somebody who is thinking like, oh, maybe this might be good for this person, or this would be good for me, shoot us a message. Or if you want to come on and have an idea to chat with us about something further in our next live, we are open and welcome ideas. So thank you, Cierra, and thank you for everyone joining today. It was so fun. Some of you guys stuck around the whole time. We really appreciate it. The little chatter boxes over here. So, hey.
All right. Thank you, Allie.
Thank you.